With Giannis, it's not an easy question, really, because he's such a wild card. We don't know if he's going to be back at all. We don't know when he comes back. Will he be close to his old self, or will he be severely hampered like we saw Trae Young at times, like we saw James Harden? So it's a tough question. Look, at the beginning of the playoffs, forget the regular season, but at the beginning of the playoffs, if you had asked me and probably most people this question, Milwaukee, Phoenix are going to make the finals, who you got? I wouldn't have even thought twice about picking Milwaukee. It would have been them in a landslide. But now I'm going with Phoenix in 6, whether Giannis plays, how much he plays or not. Now, with Giannis, let's say Giannis can come back from games 3 forward and he's 85%, like he looks pretty good, close to his old self. I give Milwaukee like a 40 to 45% chance of winning. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they win it if Giannis is there. But I'm still going with Phoenix. If he can't play at all, then I give Milwaukee 0 to 10% chance of winning. And I'm just kind of leaving that out there, that 10%, because anything can happen. Now, I don't think without Giannis that Milwaukee just gets the floor wiped with them. Like, I think that they still can make it competitive. I think they still can push it to 6, even without Giannis, because they play well together, you know, and I think they got, obviously, they got some good players, and they showed against Atlanta that they can play well even without Giannis. I think one thing to watch is Chris Middleton starts. Like, the first 2 games of all 3 playoff series, he's averaged 17 points on 37% shooting. It's almost like he has to feel out the defense and figure out how they're defending him, and then he emerges, because from games 3 forward, he's averaging 26.5 points on 47% shooting. He can't afford to start slowly in this series. They have to get a split, I believe, in Phoenix to really have a good shot at winning this series. And so he's going to obviously have to play well in both. Then the last thing is how do they cover Phoenix's pick and roll? That is obviously Phoenix's strength with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. So I think the Bucks will do a lot of switching, which obviously creates mismatches for Phoenix. So their defense is going to be interesting to see how they guard the Suns.
Yeah, I think the Bucks are going to win the title, assuming Giannis is back by Game 3, and I think Giannis will be back by Game 3, so I'll take the Bucks. I don't think they have to get a split. They didn't get a split against Brooklyn, and I understand everyone says, oh, but Brooklyn with all the injuries. I understand Brooklyn had all the injuries, but they won Game 3 when Kyrie was healthy, and they were leading Game 4 when Kyrie went down, and Kevin Durant did something that I don't believe, with respect to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They don't have the level Durant got to in Games 5 and 7, and Milwaukee won anyway, including a Game 7 on the road. They lost home court against Atlanta by losing Game 1, and they ended up winning that series in 6 despite not having Giannis for the last 2. This is not disrespect to the Suns at all. While I wasn't talking about them as a contender back in February as Brandon was, I did, at the start of the playoffs, say the 2 best teams in the West are playing each other in the first round, the Lakers and the Suns. And as Broussard very well knows, I was correctly saying Chris Paul should have been the league MVP all year. So I'd be happy for the Suns and Chris Paul if they won the title. But Brandon, I think the Bucks got over such, not only a mental, but it was almost like an exorcism of the playoff failures from the previous few years by what they did in Game 6 and 7 against Brooklyn. I mean, they were a boxer that was knocked down for a 9 count twice in that series. Losing by 50 in Game 2, it looked like it was going to be an early knockout. And in Game 5, when they had that game and they let Kevin Durant take it from them after being up 17, to have Kevin Durant come and kill them, for them to get up from that, and then in overtime, to get up from. We all talk about that game. We're like, oh, if KD's foot wasn't on the line. Yeah, but the Bucks were thinking, my God, we have this game won, and now we got to go win it again.
Right.
I just think that is how you become a champion. So assuming Giannis is back by the first game in Milwaukee, I think the Bucks will win the title.
Well, hey, I know we live on TV, but what they say, when you assume, you what? Don't do that. Stop assuming,
Nick. You make an ass out of you and me.
You can't assume
listen,
that
if Giannis isn't back, we all got the Suns.
Say that.
But the thing is this.
Right,
If Giannis misses the whole series, then obviously the Suns win.
Okay, let's listen. Everything's centered around Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. That's what it's about. You see, you saw what I did there? I got it right. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Giannis
great. You got them both right. You got them both right.
There we go. Bam.
And the Greek freak.
The Greek
Nailed
freak.
it.
Listen,
Yeah.
he has no chance. Hyperextended knee. He comes back. Maybe he's 80%, 85%. It's still not good enough. It wasn't good enough in the regular season. I don't care, Nick, if they only won by 1 point per game, but the dude averaged 40 points a game against the Suns this year, and he still couldn't beat them. So with him or without him, the Suns are a better team. Now, look, can they win a game? Possibly. We see P.J. Tucker, standing in the corner at the three, hitting that little corner three shot that we saw 2 years ago, and a lot of times in his career, throughout his career, maybe. And then you have Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton drop 49, 50 points like you saw KD do against the Bucks in Game 5, maybe. And then you also got to throw in the Suns turning the ball over 20, 22 times, which they rarely do. They protect the ball. So they have a chance, but there's no way they're going to win this with or without Giannis because he won't be 100%, Wilds.
Okay, so I think that the Bucks are going to steal one in Phoenix and end up winning in 6. And Broussard, I made up a nice graphic of your favorite segment called Nightmare Fuel. Here's why the Bucks should scare the Suns. Nightmare Fuel for the Phoenix Suns, we call it. First up is the haunted restricted area. Broussard, you know this. In 2 regular season matchups, the Bucks outscored the Suns by 51 points in the restricted area. Obviously, that was a lot of Giannis. We don't know how good he's going to be. Yes. But we also saw Brook Lopez said, you know what? Let me go back and be old school, Brook Lopez, and get in the paint. I think he's going to abuse Ayton and steal a game. Number 2, Booker's threes disappear. Why do you say that? Well, good question. Devin Booker, in their 2 regular season games, Broussard, took 45 shots. He only took 8 threes. That's because Middleton was guarding him and denying those threes. And I know he likes the mid-range. We know he likes to get to the hoops. But you want the threes to be an option. So that wasn't a choice. That was him being forced out of taking not less threes and more twos. And finally, and this is a weird one we're not talking about enough, the Bucks ghost lineup. The ghost lineup is because Giannis isn't there. Holiday, Middleton, Tucker, Portis, Lopez. They started games 5 and 6. They outscored opponents 39 points in 37 minutes. And you can tell me, it's just the Hawks. The Hawks are pretty good. And it's a good margin of they're putting points on the board. That's so, Broussard, for those 3 reasons, specifically number 2, if Booker's not hitting threes because Middleton's locking him down, I think the Bucks win this one.
First of all, that was excellent. Wow, it's a nice mix of analysis and entertainment. Ooh. No, that was good. I like that. But part of it, too, is that, remember, that's the Bucks. Their whole philosophy is protect the rim and don't give up the 3. So part of that was Booker playing into their hands if you're the Bucks, right? You're saying, look, we rather you hit mid-range jumpers than threes, but at the same time, Phoenix likes that too. And I remind you in those 2 games, for all your bells and whistles you just put on the screen, Phoenix won both games. So it's an interesting situation there. I also don't. I think Ayton's different now, and certainly he's played well all year. Even last year when he came back from the suspension, he was playing well. But I think it's a different DeAndre Ayton. Lopez, I'm glad he's turned back the clock because he used to be a great low post scorer. But I don't think he abuses Ayton the way, he may have.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.